Hey everybody! In this video, which is part 2 of a 2-video mini-series, I am going to do the hybrid coloring to finish the card that I started with complex masking on. Hybrid coloring for me just means putting down a layer of alcohol markers. I love Ola markers because they cover so beautifully and I don't have to worry about getting the right amount over and over and over again to make it smooth. They're smooth right when I color from the beginning. And then finishing these cards with colored pencils for the shading. This makes it into a mixed media card. It allows you to add details in a way that you cannot if you're using a single medium. And for that reason, I just really love combining these two mediums. So I am covering the base image very easily just with my Ola markers, just getting a base layer down. Then I will pull out my colored pencil chart and I will try to find harmonious, darker colors to go with the colors that are on my page. So I'm going to start with this really dark red to accent the chair that the little bunny is sitting in. Now, in my opinion, this kind of shading is really where the magic happens when you're doing hybrid coloring, because you get not just shading, which you could do with your same alcohol marker, but you get texture. Because colored pencils go on in a way that is not as smooth as alcohol markers, you get this extra layer of texture in addition to the shading that I find really, really fun. And sorry, the ragweed is taking away my voice, so sorry for the squeaking. So I'll show that to you up close and you can see already how much dimension just a tiny little shadow around the bunny adds. But I'll continue to go around this chair with this same color and just color the areas that would naturally be in shadow. There will be some that are curved, some that are farther from the light, etc. Little crevices in the cushions and around the chair. And I will say that I'm doing sort of a universal light source on this card. So I'm assuming that there's light coming down from the ceiling like there would be in any normal living room, but also that there's a little light sort of shining on the front of this scene. So the dimension that you see on the cushions, on the dresser, etc., are going to assume that it's a little bit brighter at the front of this image in this little scene. Now I like to go all the way around the little bunny to create a shadow and then to round off the cushions by coloring in all of the edges of the cushions, as you can see here. Now the little dark parts, those are the parts that collect all the change that you would find in your sofa. So those parts are really, really important. But any place basically where the pieces of this chair come together, you are going to add some darker shadows. And you can see how dimensional that makes it. So I also have like sort of a plummy pencil, which is a little bit darker than the red pencil that I started with. And on the legs, I'm using just a darker brown. So I'm staying within the color family pretty much for each of the types of shading that I'm going to do. So hopefully you can see on the up close view how much that makes a big difference. On the legs, again, the light source I'm assuming is sort of from the front. So the shadow is towards the back of the legs. Now on the little blanket that's on top of the recliner, I'm adding a shadow under it with the darker red. And I'm also adding a little bit of shading on it with a darker blue. So you don't have to worry too much about matching these. Just make sure the tonal values are different. Now I'm using a white Prismacolor pencil, so that's from a different set than the set that I'm coloring with. I just love the Prismacolor white. They aren't the colors that I go to when I'm just using colored pencil, but the white is definitely something I add to almost every colored pencil project that I do. Now, adding a white highlight to that cushion, see how that makes that look rounded, just like a cushion that you would sit on? These are the really important details. So the dark darks and the lighter lights that you create with a white pencil make all the difference in hybrid coloring. So I also put a little bit of white on the very top of the arms of the chair. That's the light that's coming down from the ceiling. So to box in the drawers just a little bit, I'm coloring around the edge of each drawer. You would assume that the structure of the dresser would cast a little bit of a shadow on each of these drawers, so that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Just using a darker brown, again, it doesn't have to really be in the same family. It just needs to be a little bit darker. This reminds me of my late 1900s dresser that I had growing up, I'm not gonna lie. We were big into dresser hardware back then, so my dresser was similarly over hardware. Like, do you really need 2 drawer pulls? Maybe. Anyway, sort of looks like a TV cabinet too. So on the side, you will want this, basically the entire side, to be darker than the front, because it is facing away from every light source that I have in this scene. So I color most of that in. You can leave a little bit of a highlight. Then using the white pencil, I will add a highlight to the center of the drawers, and I'll actually go over this later and make it even a little bit lighter. But that sort of gives you the sense of light in the scene. So just sort of check your work as you go. Make sure you're not spending too much time in one place. You'll see how I'm kind of moving around the image to add highlights and lowlights. So now you can see that little line that I put on the leg of the dresser that really makes it look 3D and round, which each of these legs are. So I'll add it to each one of the other legs and then show you how much that adds. Just simple. There's nothing hard about this at all. It's really easy. Just takes a little bit of time. So same with this sort of funky 70s vase. I'll add a little bit of the dark red shading, but then also add some white highlights to really pop that out. I can't ever stop with the white pencil. I always feel like I need to keep going. I'm a chronic highlight and low light overworker. Now I'm adding a little bit of depth to the potted plant, first with a light green pencil, but then with a dark navy blue, which is a great shading color for botanicals, just to give that a little bit of dimension and shadow. Then I come back with some harsher whites to highlight the highlights. So let me show you what that looks like. And then finally we have the bunny. We can't just leave this a flat white. It's not going to blend into the scene if you don't add some color, but I didn't want him to be a brown bunny because I have brown wallpaper and a brown dresser. So I went with cool grays in the colored pencils and just tried to add a little bit of pencil where there would normally be shadow and sort of leave the rest of the bunny white. This is a very easy part of the process because you just need a couple of pencils to show that he is a gray bunny that is mostly white. So there's what he looks like. He has his own shading. He's casting a shadow onto the furniture. Looks very dimensional. So one of the last steps is to add shadows on the actual carpet. So if you have carpet, you'll know these little shadows that are cast by furniture. And so I'm using a darker blue to create the shadow on the little Berber carpet texture that I created in the first video. So I'll pop another link up to this video so you can see part 1 where I created the background. But I think that this makes a big difference. Now you'll want, when you add this shadow, to add it so that it matches whatever you think your light source is. As I said, I have both universal light coming from imaginary lights in the ceiling, but I'm also sort of lighting my subjects with a light from the front, and so I chose to make my shadows go backwards in the scene to reflect that. So you can make them go any direction you want. It's going to look great no matter how you do it. So go crazy. Now I come back and darken just underneath the legs in addition to the sort of lighter shadow that I put on the carpet. I think this makes it look like it's sinking into the carpet just a little bit like you would see with regular furniture. But you can see in the details, all of these different things add up to be a really homey, really cute scene that honestly was worth every second that you spent masking and coloring. And the coloring process is so relaxing and so easy, it really doesn't take any special skill. So here's the finished card. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.